Gorbad Ironclaw. Inspirational leader, true warrior, and the most...
Oi! Let's play Toss the Gobbo again!
Today, we're going to take the most inspirational orc of all time on a quest to retake the Badlands. But Gorbad isn't just any old orc, he's a tactical genius. So we're going to attempt to use a different army or different tactical strategy in every single battle, including some from real-world history and some that probably aren't from real-world history. So, Gorbad campaign, very hard, a little bit of an enemy stat boost. Gorbad starts in the good old Black Crag settlement with a fairly versatile little army and an orc shaman named Steve Coalmuncher. So he's already got the perfect name and he's going in the army, but most of our units here aren't required for our first strategy. We're going to need a lot of squigs. You'll see why. First, I'm going to recruit another lord so I can kind of use him as a storage unit for my units and switch them out when I need them. He needed a more savage orky name though, so say hello to Simon Rotgut. Now, our first real order of business was taking Iron Rock, and we were going to do that with the power of Squig and Gorbad's unique mechanic, the Plan, that gives us a whole host of tactics and strategies to make use of. This one, Erd Mentality, upkeep reduction for Squigs, and this ability that gives them up to 40 melee defense and a 40% damage resistance, which is pretty huge, and makes the Squigs unbreakable, so they're not going to run away like they usually do. So we're going to equip this. It only lasts 3 turns, so we got to act fast, and then we're ready to take Iron Rock. Now we roll up on it, and it's got some pretty good defenses there. It's predicted a close defeat. They don't trust in our Squigs, but they obviously haven't witnessed their fearsome march. I know, terrifying. And there's only one way to deploy an army of Squigs, Squigpole. Because with the Erd Mentality ability, our Squigs need to be near each other to get that buff. And the more Squigs that are packed in together, the bigger a buff they're going to get. So we're going to be a big ball of death charging into the enemy here, center mass of their army, trying to keep as many Squigs as tightly packed as possible. And it's working pretty well here. You can see we're at 90% Erd Mentality, so a lot of protection for our Squigos. I'm going to have one Squig Phallus of Doom sneak through the middle to get after the missiles, and then Steve and Gorbad going after the enemy lord. This is also the enemy faction leader, so if we can win this battle, we'll get the Confederation. It doesn't take the boys long to absolutely bonk the enemy leader on the head. Our Squigs have still been going strong with that crazy extra melee defense and damage resistance, and with a little Squig hammer and anvil, this one is going to be in the bag. So, Iron Rock was ours, as was the Confederation, which meant all of this was ours. Now, as my intention here is to try and use a different army for every battle, we're not going to use Erd Mentality again, we're going to switch it up, but still make use of the Squigs, trying to use this one this time, Light Them Up. This will give the flammable trait to the Squigs, meaning anything they attack will get a weakness to fire, and it enables flaming attacks for missile units. So I decided to go full Mongol with this one, because as we all know, the Mongols are well known for their use of Squigs in battle, and of course, archer cavalry. Upon remembering, though, that I'm not going to have Erd Mentality active in this one, so my Squigs aren't going to be as strong, I need to put something in there with them, so just a few gobbos to take the damage off them. And for our next target, we were going to head westward towards this other greenskin faction, because we can confederate them too if we can beat up their leader, who, while I'm on the way there, very conveniently comes out and stands right next to me. So we set our plan to light them up and then get after them. And it's predicted as a valiant defeat, and looking at their army, I'm not massively confident, but we're gonna have a go. I start off by trying a Wolf Rider Caracol, a tactic some of you might remember from my Genghis Khan video, but it doesn't quite come off here. They're supposed to run around in a constant circle and shoot, but they didn't really get the chance here because I forgot the Wolf Rider Cavalry was right there, so that kind of went to scheisse. But whatever, send in the Squigs, let's get things flammable and let's start shooting at them. We get in there with the Squig, start raining down some missiles. Obviously, Skirmish Cav is a little bit slower in damage output, so this will probably work better with normal missile units. But it seems to do okay against the Trolls because they already have a 20% weakness to fire, so now they have a 40% weakness to fire, which is some pretty good extra damage for our missiles. The battle does end up a little messy overall. I did get some of my cavalry behind the enemy though, shooting them in the back, and we still got some in the front, so we're kind of shooting the front line of the enemy in the front and the back. So it's kind of worked out. The extra damage on the Trolls seemed to help. They were one of the more dangerous units of the enemy army, but we got it done. Some of the Wolf Riders came away with 50 and 60 kills, so they actually did pretty alright out of that. We then took the Confederation and gained even more territory. But alas, over the turn, jealous of our strong Mongol tactics, Malagor came and declared war on us and took Ekrand and razed it straight to the ground. After this, he seemingly buggered off and I wasn't getting any replenishment, so I decided to get rid of my units to start building for the next plan, but that little shit Malagor appeared out of nowhere again and besieged me, not with much of an army, and luckily we were able to get a Pyrrhic victory auto-resolve, which I took. Fuck you, Malagor. And with that close shave, I started recruiting as quickly as possible, but over the turn, guess who's declaring war on me now? It's the damn nearby Ogres. They had a big old army that looked like it was probably coming for me very shortly, so I decided just to abandon this settlement and get the hell out of there, regroup back in our home territory. Not before taking out their stupid ogre camp, though. So we lost all the territory we gained in the west to the ogres, but we're gonna come back with a vengeance, because you know Gorbad's got the plan to deal with them. To unlock this plan, though, we need to get more kills with spear units, so I'm gonna start farming rats, because they're easy to kill and they're right next to us. So I send Simon Rotgut over to start training the spearmen against the rats, declaring war on Clan Moors, which I'm pretty sure is not a good idea, but I need someone to train my spearmen on, so they're it. I'm only going to sack this settlement so I can repeat the process. And once we do that one more time, we unlock the new tactic, stick 'em like pigs. You'll see. I then recruit a last batch of spearmen, take Simon's spearmen off him, and as I start heading west again to get after those ogres, they once again get after me, attacking Doc Karaz in the north, and making the fatal mistake of showing me where they are. So we're gonna get them. This is where we activate Stick 'em like pigs, where we're gonna get extra bonus versus large, melee reflection, and a physical resistance. And just as we're on the way to get them, they come and get us. But we're gonna do them dwarf style in this one, as we're going for a big old box formation. Sturdy, reliable, impenetrable, hopefully. In hindsight, I wish I put some missiles and maybe artillery into this army. It would have been a lot better, especially as these big boy ogres tower above our boys, so we would have been able to shoot them quite easily. But our boys are going to get charged right in the face, but they're going to hold strong. They got that 10% physical resistance, protecting them from a bit of damage, and the melee reflection, so they're doing some extra damage back to the ogres. I've got my Black Orc Big Boss Knobnails, which was his given name, by the way, supporting one corner, and Gorbad himself protects the other. They're only really attacking us on these two front corners more than anything, not really getting anywhere near the back. Gorbad chopping down those ogres. Eventually, though, their lord starts pushing through the box and nearly gets through, so we have to answer that. Gorbad himself is going to come over and deal with him, and with a little help from our boy Steve, dropping an Here We Go to boost everyone's melee attack by 40, this lord is going to get messed up pretty quick, and the ogre assault crumbles. We then retake Doc Karaz and keep the momentum going, pushing around to start taking the western Badlands, going after Stone Mine Tower and clearing out its rat infestation. And unsure what I can really do differently with an army of spearmen, I activate the Power of the War plan, which reduces magic cost, reduces cooldown time, and gives us a little extra magic to play with. So for this one, we once again assumed the box formation, but I mostly got through this, spamming brain bursters and Here We Goes all over the place. The enemy did have the missile advantage, so they were wearing us down from range, which the ogres couldn't do, but eventually Gorbad spotted an advantage to be taken in the distance. A little rat, all by himself, the lord of the army. Gorbad wasted no time in going after him, but there was a bunch of rats in his way that were going to slow him down. Good old Steve helped him out, though, with a brain burster that would clear the way so Gorbad could get through that line and get after that lord. And it wasn't long before that rat lord couldn't keep his head on straight, or on at all. And with that, the rats fucked right off. And with that, the first settlement of the Western Badlands was ours. Back over by Black Crag, I had Simon preparing to go after some rats again, trying to use cavalry to unlock a plan for them. But oh scheisse, we got ambushed, his army pretty small, not really sure what we're getting ambushed by. Oh dear. The assault not terribly aggressive from the start, we had a bit of time to maneuver. I had the infantry ready to face their infantry and got the cavalry after their missiles. They had some pretty dangerous ones in there, and they were the only real worry, otherwise it's mostly clan rats and skaven slaves, so nothing too much to worry about, just those ranged units. Just the one army as well, didn't seem to be any reinforcements. So with the boars taking care of the ranged and the boys hammer and anviling the infantry, we were mostly fine. There was a unit of the council guard though that came along. They were a little tougher to get through, but we handled them. We survived. We then chased down the remainder of their army, and hey, we've got a lot of the boar kills that we needed, so nice. Pushing more onto the Western Badlands, we now had the ogres to finish off. There was a big army right in front of us, so we prepared to stick them like pigs again. Didn't want to use the exact same tactics as we did before, though, so Gorbad was going to have to think up something different. And it just so happened that Gork and Mork smiled on us this day as they gave us a choke point map. And Gorbad remembered the great battle of old, the Battle of Thermopylae, the 300 Spartans and King Leonidas that held the pass. And guess what? We've got 77 orcs, we've got 119 orcs, we've got 102 orcs, that's 298 orcs. Add in a big boss and Gorbad, that is 300 orcs that are going to hold this pass and no more. If the boys couldn't do it, then the rest of the army was going to get flanked, so it was up to them. And I guess the rest of my army is kind of role-playing as the mountains that protected the pass of Thermopylae. Now, because we're the attacking force, we have to encourage the enemy to come to us, so a few brain bursters on these pigback riders should do the job. And in they came, sending in their blood vultures first of all, which doesn't sound like much, but they are knocking down our 300 here. And you know, we're going to need them to deal with all the ogres. So I'm getting Gorbad in there, I'm getting Knobnails in there, trying to kill them off as quickly as possible. And eventually, just like in the actual Battle of Thermopylae, the lions arrived and started coming after us. And then all the ogre boys too. So it was up to our 300 spear warriors to defend us, or 298 spear warriors and 2 axe warriors. Some units did attack the backside as well. I had Steve buffing up those units with Here We Goes to protect them. I didn't use Steve on the 300 because, you know, Spartans didn't use magic until a few years later. There was a few things on the other side, but barely anything. Mostly it was a question of can the 300 hold, because it's looking a little bleak right now. There's a lot of ogres in there. The ogre lord is in there. Knobnails was taking him on, but he was slowly losing, so I brought Gorbad over to help him out. Tried to focus on cutting off the head of the ogre snake. But the boys were holding strong, keeping them there. A little while to help them out. I very nearly did cave. I moved these 2 units up because I was going to get them in there to help the 300, but I stopped and said, no, believe in your Spartan orcs. They will hold. They've got that protection of stick 'em like pigs. But as the battle wore on, our lines were getting thinner and thinner, and the 300 was becoming less and less and less. They're probably like the 150 now or something. But with Gorbad and Knobnails beating down the Lord and him breaking, we start to get the ogres wavering, and what do you know? The boys have actually held the pass. Except for the Lord, who did sneak through, taking the piss, so we made sure Gorbad and Knobnails let him know who's boss, getting revenge for them chasing us off earlier. And with that victory, we beat down their army, we chased down their army, getting their garrison involved, get a decisive victory auto-resolve on that, clearing the way for us to rightfully reclaim our land of Bitterstone Mine, another section of the Western Badlands. At this point, I'd now unlocked Gorbad's unique skill line, getting ears to plan, a nice defensive buff for a unit, and most of this line is about supporting certain parts of the army, the melee troops, the missile troops, etc. And as you can see, I've been putting most of my skill points into buffing up Gorbad himself, not really into the red line. Because I'm changing my army all the time, I figured they'd be a little bit wasted, and I wanted to rely on the tactics and the plan to get things done. We were then free to push on and take Ekrund, and finally rid the world of those Feastmaster ogres. We just about managed to have enough boys left in the tank as well to take out the rats controlling Dragonhorn mines, and with that, the Western Badlands was ours. Back over near Iron Rock, a Skaven army was approaching, so I had to underway Simon over there to protect it, because it doesn't have much of a garrison yet. And over another turn, a second army appeared, so this was looking a little bleak. Luckily, I had recruited some extra boar boys over that turn and decided to take the closer army on. Rather than trying to take on both armies at once, I think I'd have a better chance doing one at a time, even if I am beaten down after the first one. So we got rid of them, managed to unlock the boar tactic we were trying to get, and then headed back into Iron Rock to replenish. I didn't like my chances greatly though, as it was a quick head-taker army, so a proper legendary lord with a fairly strong army there. I decided to recruit a few regiments of renown to try and scare him off, and it seemed to work as he retreated back to Karak 8 Peaks. I then recruited myself a Night Goblin Big Boss for some future planned tactics. And he was seemingly named after Gorbad's weapon, Mongol the Mangler, but Gorbad couldn't have that, so we needed to give him an equally terrifying name, Stuart. Now at this point, I wanted to take on Clan Moors and go and get the Eastern Badlands off them, but I didn't want to leave the Western Badlands undefended. So Gorbad and Simon did a swapsy, swapping some units along the way, and what do you know, on the turn where Simon Rockgut arrives back in the Western Badlands, he is attacked straight away by Malagor, so lucky time in there, as we can get an easy auto-resolve. Malagor then asks for peace, which I take so we can focus on Clan Moors. And it's a good job too, because they're sending armies after us, 2 full stacks here. I decided it's time to war up. And I'm going to make Karak 8 Peaks my target just to annoy the rats, even though I don't need to take it, it's not part of the Badlands, but at least I can annoy them and everyone else who wants 8 Peaks. Now for these 2 armies that are coming our way, one of them is pretty dangerous, the other one is mostly crap. But Gorbad is ready with his next tactic with a lot of boars. We're going to use Lead the Charge. This is going to give mass to our boars and the Lead the Charge ability to Knobnails, which gives us some extra charge power and devastating flanker. And as Gorbad has leveled up and unlocked a second tactic slot, we are going to use Gorbad's boys, which will give them a nice damage boost whenever a lord or hero is nearby the boys. Now I expected these rat armies to come at me, but they both split off in different directions. I had to chase them around a little and stop them taking Iron Rock, and I was hoping they weren't going to go and take Dawazbag to the north, but oh scheiße, we got ambushed again. It's going to be that strong army and that small army at least, hopefully no more. Let's have them. We're trundling calmly through the desert. We can see our attackers, but we can't do anything yet. Alright, this first army seems to be the crappy one with Skaven slaves and clan rats, so nothing to worry about. We should be able to mow this lot down pretty easily, and then I want to try and take this hill where these Skaven are. I'm sending my infantry over there, and I want to take that hill and hold it, because there's a reinforcement army coming from here, and another one on the complete opposite side of the map, and what we don't want to do is just sit in the middle of the map and then get sandwiched by those two. And here comes our big boar charges, absolutely obliterating this Skaven infantry. They're buffed up by Lead the Charge from the big boss as well. Beautiful. The little army on that hill has come down and attacked my infantry, so we're setting up some big hammer and anvil here. Again, 4 power, got that extra mass. Gonna absolutely destroy all this crappy little infantry. And the reinforcing armies have arrived now, but you see this one's a pretty long way away, so because we're more over this side, it's gonna take them a while to get us, and we can deal with the other reinforcing army first. And they have started coming in, but I set up a bunch of my boars ready to attack whatever comes out of there. They got some artillery, they got some poison wind mortars, so we need to make sure that stuff doesn't get firing. Otherwise, it may mess up our little orc boy line that is holding the hill here. And it's these boys who are going to take on that remaining reinforcement army coming from the other side. And that army does start to arrive, but it only trickles in because the enemy's got too many units on the field and they can only have a new one when another one dies, so they got to wait for all their stuff to come in. But there is some strong missile units, again, more poison wind mortars, artillery. We got to take care of that. I do send one unit of boar boys to try and get after them, but they get bombarded by the poison winds and can't get anything done. I do get all over the poison winds that come in on the other side though, so they're not a problem. But I really do need to stop the other ones, otherwise they're going to bombard my hill-holding orc boys. So what can we do? Fucking knob nails, mate. He's coming with a couple of his boar boys and he's going to make sure that they do nothing. Absolutely nothing. Gorbad's been holding the line with the boys, but the storm vermin just keep coming, and our orc boys are going to get worn down by them. They do get a bit flanked by the other army's units that have snuck past as well. I am trying to buff them up as much as I can with Gorbad, and they do have the Gorbad's boys tactic on there as well, so we are getting the buff from that. But as time wears on, we start getting worn down. One of our orc boys breaks. We are a bit flanked now. We are in trouble. There is a lot of storm vermin left. Can anybody save us? Fucking knob nails, mate. He's back again with some big charges from his boars, and he is actually going to save the day because our orc boys had pretty much had it on the brink of destruction. All these storm vermin still to get through. They need the armor-piercing damage of the boars, some doom flayers in there as well, and slowly but surely, with a good bit of clobbering and a little bit of mumbo-jumbo chant, we're able to get rid of them. So we survive the ambush, get rid of one of the armies that came after us, and then another fresh stack arrives. Fantastic. That army looks like it's going for Black Crag, which should be able to defend itself, but I'm going to put an extra lord in there just in case. They do besiege us, but I don't like my chances of fighting the battle, so I just bring Gorbad over to scare them off, and it works. But then it looks like it's going to go after Iron Rock, so I get some regiments of renown there quickly just to help defend that. And of course they did besiege us over the turn, and a valiant defeat. I can't get the victory, so I gotta fight this one. This was a fairly unremarkable battle, to be honest. I just got after the missiles, tried to flank them as much as possible. The biggest issue was Queek himself. It pretty much came down to him, but after a lot of shooting and a little bit of troll bonking, we got him. Now at this point I realized if I just keep sitting here, they're just going to keep sending armies, so I got to get after them and push them back. So I'm going to push on Valea Sorrow. There's a few armies in that direction, but we got a nice big new army with some big new tactics planned. I'm also building up a second army with another very specific, unique plan. Now, when it came to 8 Peaks, it wasn't really my plan to take it, and when I noticed 3 stacks of Crooked Moon Goblins coming for it, I figured they can have it. I'm not fussed about going to war with them for it, so just let them have it. As long as everything around us is green, all is well. And I figured once they've taken it, I can give them Valea Sorrow to get a non-aggression and whatever else. And as I did start to push southward, a little Skaven army underwayed back over towards Valea Sorrow, so I had to come back and take that out. I then realized, hey, I might as well come and sack Karak 8 Peaks and get some money out of it and make it easier for the Crooked Moon to take it. So we did that and claimed a nice 14 grand. I then raised it afterwards as well. And as we're about to start pushing south, we need more tactics. So we're getting the Black Battalion. This gives the option to any Orc infantry to have immovable bulwark or unstoppable choppers active for more defenses or more attack power. So we're taking that because it's going to be very handy for our upcoming Roman formation, and lead to charge again because, well, it's just a lot of fun, to be honest. We then push on to Crooked Fang Fort, which I'm actually going to besiege. Because there's an enemy army nearby, I want to draw them into the fight so we can crush them at the same time and don't have to chase them around. And over the turn, we get one. We get Queek's army, a pretty strong army, and a Pyrrhic victory if we want it. It's only my War army for some reason, but I decide to take it and get that army out the way. But then, triple scheisse! From the arse end of nowhere, 2 more armies have come and got us, as well as the garrison, so we've got 3 stacks to try and defeat. We could take the Pyrrhic, but nah. Veni vidi vici. 3 armies or not, we were going to attempt the triplex acies, a classic Roman formation. 3 lines set out in a checkerboard kind of formation, with the Hastati boys at the front, the younger, more inexperienced, lesser infantry, and they do have the option of unstoppable choppers or immovable bulwark. And then you have the Principigans. These are the more experienced infantry, bigger, tougher boys, again got those same 2 buffs. And the last line of defense, if all else fails, the Triari Black Orcs. the toughest, most experienced soldiers that'll only get into the fight if the other two lots fail. But something tells me they might be needed in this fight. And then at the front, some velites, sort of. They're just crossbows, alright? We don't have any javelins. This is all we got. They'll do. Ruglugs, armored orcs. So we push up on the first army in front of us under some slight bombardment. They do have one of their reinforcement armies coming in behind them, so a lot of stuff coming from this direction, and the other reinforcement army is behind us, which isn't great, but we do have our war army that started over that side as well, so I'm going to get them to try and disrupt that army and slow them down so that we can deal with these two first. So we charge up on them, they start charging us back, our Hastati boys getting into the combat. They shouldn't have any trouble with all the clan rats coming their way. They are under missile fire a little bit though, but not for long, because you know why? Fucking knobnails, mate. He's coming around the flank with all of his boar cavalry, just as Julius Caesar probably once did. Our front boys holding strong though, although some of the big uns have had to get involved a little bit, just because of the enemy numbers. And Knobnail's boys are of course on hand to lend a few charges to help the cause, boosted up in their charge bonus and the extra mass of course, so them rats go flying. The reinforcing army behind us is being pretty well distracted by the war army, so this is buying the main army time. They are being a bit of a sacrifice though, they're probably not going to make it out of this battle. Again though, there is some strong missile units that we really need to stop. And as the battle wears on, we're still kind of holding on. Our Orc Boy line is still kind of there, the Big Un line is there, and the Black Orcs haven't had to get involved yet. The formation is holding strong. Gorbad has been getting stuck in on the front line as well, helping support the boys here and there. And eventually the Triari Black Orcs time has come, as units are going to start reaching us from the behind army, and it is going to start to become a little bit of a problem, namely because all these missile units are here and they're starting to wail on us. Knobnail should be cleaning them up, but he's gone off on one, is chasing some stuff out wide, so he needs to get back here as quickly as possible, especially as one of our Black Orc units has just broken thanks to the More Skitters Hellion, the regiment of renowned mutant rat ogre. He is a problem. Gorbad's giving him hell, but he's going to need to get out of there as well. And eventually it starts chasing poor old Steve, who says fuck this and gets the hell out of there. He nearly got his head smashed off in the process though. Run, Steve, run! Steve, being the big brain orc that he is though, runs the thing into some big sapes, who are of course anti-large. He then pops Here We Go on them to boost their melee attack, and it's goodbye Hellion. As this battle wears on though, the Skaven just keep on coming, and the favor not looking too great for us. We're getting worn down, there's a lot of rats left, still some missiles. Knobnails has been running them down as best as he can. The boys are still fighting hard to survive, but then the heavens open and Gork himself graces us with his presence, lending a foot, swiftly putting an end to a large group of Skaven, and turning the tide of the battle, probably. And after the sight of such a fearsome foot, the rats are done. And with that, a glorious victory, wiping out 2 of their stacks as well as the garrison, which means this fort is now ours. After such a display of military Roman strength, of course, Queek wants peace, but we can't take it yet. We need the eastern Badlands first. We then got a free run to Dringorakaz. We got a free run to Spike Peak, and with that, the eastern Badlands are ours, and now we can get peace and focus on the final piece of the Badlands, the southern Badlands. Currently controlled by ogres and corn, it would seem. And would you believe it, after all this time, nobody has actually come and claimed 8 Peak, so I decided to just take it for myself with my Squig army boy, who I realise isn't really named very appropriately for a Squig army leader, so I give him the proper name he has so rightly earned, Ball Tickler. The perfect name for the leader of the finest testicle army, Squig Army. Now, wasting no time, we head over towards the southern Badlands. I start rearranging Gorbad's army for the next big plan. And while I'm doing that, I send Ball Tickler to go and take the little settlement Grunty Mingal off the ogres. But that son of a bitch Scarbrand beats us to it. And so we have to retreat because his army is maybe a little too big for ours. So I realize, well, let's get more Squigs. Why have I not got a full stack? I get myself the regiment of renowned Acid Burper, Colossal Squig, and more Squig Herd, because you know we gotta use Herd mentality again. Now Gorbad's army is ready, but before we get after Scarbrand, I figure Gorbad could use his legendary weapon, Mongol the Mangler. So we're gonna do his quest battle to get it. Now as this is a pre-release video, spoiler alert, if you don't want to see this, skip forward to 2547. Otherwise, I'll let Gorbad set the scene.
So, I's hearing the beastmen don't want us here for some reason, boys. When I find them, I'm gonna take their orders. There they are, right out in the open. Them beastmen are done, but they ain't that done. Keep your eyes peeled for ambushes. They loves hiding in the trees. Speaking of trees, the scouts say they seen them tree men walking around there. They don't take too well towards shopping neither. But you get to what I says, and we'll chop them in their stride. Chop them all down. Trees, weaklings, everything.
So, we got beastmen to kill. We're going to assume this kind of arrowhead formation for no real reason. This wasn't really my plan with this tactic. It just looks cool. And the enemy army really isn't much. But as Gorbad said, there's probably going to be some little fuckers in the trees. So I've sent Knobnails and his boys to get rid of them, which took all of about 13 seconds. Of course, there's another ambushing army on the other side. I kind of figured there would be. I couldn't see this, obviously, when I was playing the battle, but I figured they'd be in there. Wasn't too worried, though, especially as they ran straight out of the forest straight at us as we were moving up as well. We headed straight for their 5 units of infantry in 3 single entities and had Knobnails marching around the back. And as you can imagine, a small tiny army facing my entire army, this wasn't really much of a challenge. Eventually they did get some reinforcements, which was 4 units of pigs, so they didn't last long either. But then the trees came alive and came after us as well. A tree men army came to get us. Hearing that there were elf sympathizers on the field, the boys just lost their shit and just charged towards the trees, and madness ensued, but so did a lot of dead trees. And that was pretty much the end of that one. I really wish they'd make quest battles hard again like they used to be. We got Gorbad's weapon though in the Mongol, the Mangler ability, got magic attacks as well, amongst other things. It was now time for us to make the move on Scarbrand though. Ball Tickler kicking it off, getting grunty Mongol. Gorbad made the push on Galbaraz. I decided to besiege them to try and get them to come out to fight me. But sadly, they wouldn't, so we just took it and carried on pushing through. Ball Tickler heading for the last settlement, though, in the southern Badlands, Stormhenge, who were apparently going to put up a bit of a fight, so we had to fight this one. It was a minor settlement, though. I did besiege them and try to get them to come out over the turn, but they didn't, so we had to go get them. And I broke my squigs up into loads of little squig parties coming in from all directions on this minor settlement. And to be honest, most of the time, the demons looked like they were running in fear. They didn't know what to do with themselves. We had colossal squigs coming in. We had Mangler squigs coming in. It was getting real messy, real fast, just the way squigs like it. Poor old Stuart was in this army who buffs up the squigs, but he was getting harassed by the Lord, but luckily the squigs had his back. You don't mess with a Night Goblin squig master without messing with his squigs. Needless to say, that didn't take long, and there it was. All the Badlands were ours. Southern, western, eastern. This was mission success, and actually the short campaign victory success as well, nearly. Just the top parts of the Blood River area, which is currently Crooked Moon, so that's fine. As long as it's greenskins, we could just come and bonk Skarsnik on the head if we really wanted it. But I was hoping to get some big battles at the end here, and we didn't get them, so I was gonna go searching for them. Gorbad hunted down Scarbrand and presented himself there, ready for a battle. And Ball Tickler came face to face with Clanmores and Queek once again, so we strapped on our Erd mentality one more time, declared war on Queek, and went at him. He had a pretty tough army to be fair, but he wasn't ready for our evolution of the squig ball tactic, the full squig formation. That's right, this is a squig. What, you can't see it? Let me show you. This is his little squiggy body, this is his squiggy mouth. We got some squig legs down here, and of course, squig eyes. 2 of them big, colossal squig eyes, and between his legs 2, well, never mind about these ones actually, they don't, never mind. Let's go. The full squig formation is in motion, and what a ridiculous and terrifying sight it is. And of course, it's a formation made famous by Napoleon in the Battle of Waterloo, which is probably why he lost, because apparently it's not the most maneuverable of formations, fitting through small gaps, and tightly packing your entire army together when there's mortar-type attacks coming at you isn't the best idea either. Nevertheless, our squiggy boys get into combat and get after it, whatever they can. Any rats in the way, they're getting munched. The colossal squigs having a great time rolling all over them. The Mangler squigs are just doing whatever the fuck they do. And to be honest, most of the army was doing whatever they wanted, rampaging away with nothing I could do, so I just had to sit there and watch. Stuart did summon up some squigs though to get after some of the artillery and missiles, so that helped out a lot. Otherwise, it was just complete madness, and as I say, nothing I could really do. Apparently my lord was carried off by a doom wheel. What the fuck? We couldn't really get behind them much either, so I couldn't flank or hammer an anvil. We just kind of got stuck grinding them down, which was fine. Our Mangler squigs were happy enough, and our squig herd was buffed up by Erd mentality. We did find Queek in the thick of it, getting stuck in, but he got knocked over by a colossal squig. Eventually got himself to his feet, and then got knocked over by a rogue Mangler squig. He's down again, he's getting up, and just as he regains composure, Ball Tickler pushes him down one more time, and then he's pretty much just, oh, he's gone. Yeah, he's gone now. He's done. With that, a glorious Pyrrhic victory with the squig ball formation. It was now up to Gorbad to get Scarbrand to fight, but he wanted peace. The little baby needed the peace, and when he couldn't get it, he ran away and hid in his castle. I can only assume he left his testicles there. So Gorbad went a knocking on his door, where he had 2 and a bit stacks that could take us on, so I thought, Well, let's let him come out and fight us if he's got the minerals. One last time we needed to strap on our tactics, this time going with block and smash. This gives orc infantry a damage resistance when there are trolls nearby and gives the trolls a damage boost when there's orc infantry nearby. We're also going to whack on the Greatest Warlord, which will give ward save and perfect vigor for Gorbad, and Heavy Metal Marching, which will give extra armor and fear for Black Orcs. And with the ending of the turn, Scarbrand must have found his balls in his bedside cabinet, strapped them on, and we're going. For this one, I wanted to use a good old military tactic, a sort of oblique order. So we needed a sturdy front line, and on one of the wings of that front line, we had an absolute mass of power. The Crimson Killers, 2 units of Black Orcs, Gorbad, and Knobnails, as well as a couple of Stone Trolls. The plan here is absolute concentration of force on this left side, break it quickly, and then flank around on all the stuff that's taken on our Black Orcs. A lone unit of cavalry has come over all by itself to take on the entire army, so that's great. We get into them with the characters and the trolls, and Steve's being chased again, this time by dogs. Get out of there, Steve. I think he likes being chased, that one, to be honest. And it is an army of fleshhounds that come at us first, hitting our Black Orc front line. They're not too much of a worry, as our Black Orc boys are using a movable bulwark, so they got a shice ton of melee defense, not so much melee attack though, so they're going to take a while to kill stuff. I'm trying my diddly darndest to push this way though and flank around and get after that frontline stuff, but there's just so much stuff in the way. There's so many dogs that keep getting in the way, and I can't actually come and help the front line. Scarbrand himself is here as well, so we got to do something about that bastard. But the enemies just keep coming. There's more and more reinforcements arriving. Chaos Warriors forsaken, and on the left side we still can't really get anywhere. They're sending all the good stuff at us. The Hellforge host is here. There's a soul grinder in the way. More dogs. Our oblique order not looking so hot. I decide our best course of action here is to try and get the big man dead, and there's only one boy for the job. Gorbad himself coming over to take on Scarbrand. He gets after him with a mighty charge, popping any ability he can to help him in this fight. Scarbrand pretty spooky with his 1.1k damage, but Gorbad's not far behind with his 900 damage and a bonus versus large. And with that almighty power, Gorbad hits Scarbrand so hard he knocks him into the ground like a fucking cartoon. Lovely. Gorbad himself not quite sure how that happened, but there's no time for celebrating. He's got more work to do. And speaking of doing work, Steve has been very helpful in this battle, dropping Here We Goes on the Black Orc front line because they don't have the support of the oblique order flanking attack. They've needed that extra melee attack from Here We Go to keep them in the fight, as well as the occasional mumbo jumbo chant, and Gork occasionally lends a foot too. And eventually, although we don't get to pull off the tactic the way we wanted, we do grind our way through all these Khorne units and get that victory. And with that, Gorbad has proved himself the greatest tactical mind in the old world. And there we go. I hope you've enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to consider supporting the channel, do check out the YouTube memberships or the Patreon. Or if you want more of this stuff, I got it right here. Otherwise, I will see you in the future.